This show is presented by the 323 Network. You can watch all your favorite 323 friends and shows on the 323 Network YouTube channel, follow us on all social media platforms at 323read, and support us as we continue to grow at patreon.com/323read. That's 323REID.
I told Scott I don't have a lot to contribute to a lot of this. I'm just going to keep editing while you guys talk.
Oh, it's all good. So you have the top 5 FX shows. Scott, which top 5 are you going to do?
See, and I'm glad I looked about. I just told you about this too, because me and you haven't coordinated this. So what I had to do is I had to prep a top 5 list for both HBO and for Netflix.
I did too.
God damn it. Oh, jeez Louise.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 323. I am your host, Reed Murphy. Oh, just out here hawking 323 Bibles. We're doing it better than the former president. So cheap, you heard the advertisement. We can get it going. We already converted one person. He's already beer right on the show. He got him back. That's what got him back. It's what got him redeemed, uncanceled. This is his first appearance outside of Awesome Con, where, he got to, sneak in there. But Zuhair Ali of the Animation Deliberation Podcast is back. Hi, Zoo. Welcome, buddy.
Hello.
All redeemed and feeling brand new, and he's brought there by the Joseph Smith of the 323. Scott Ellia himself, host of College Shame Day. Hi, Scott.
Hello.
What a weird start to the show between making me a hell diver. I'm ready for this. Oh my God. Go to the 323 Network on YouTube where you can see all of us. We're watching, we're doing reactions. We got so much great new content that's going on there that's exclusive to there. There's going to be a top 5 later that you'll need to go to the 323 Network on YouTube to really get the full gist of everything that's happening. It's a wild, wild show, but it's always good to have these two with me. And there's plenty to talk about this week. We, just outside of Trump Bibles and Trump Bibles and hell diving. We got plenty to get into. Lots of news to attack, so we're just going to go ahead and get to it with, for the first time in a long time, some news to know. Oh, man, congrats to this year's NCAA basketball champions. We have it was the UConn men. I almost said the UConn women because I'm just so usually used to the UConn women when it comes to these championships. But the UConn men, second year in a row, they were the reigning champs last year, made it a comeback for the first time in, 17 years, I think, or however, I think it was Florida was the last one to do this, everything, and get a repeat in there. So congrats to them, and congrats to the South Carolina women. Took down Caitlin Clark, took down Iowa to win the women's tournament championship. Man, that game was exciting. I was not feeling the men's basketball tournament. I don't know if you watched that championship game, Scott. I dipped around halftime. I think at the halftime it was about 36-31 UConn, and then I fell down a TikTok spiral. And next thing I know, it was 54-36 UConn. I don't know what happened. I don't know where it all went awry. Zach Edey, the big lump of meat, he didn't really do what you needed him to do in that game. But the women's championship, that was exciting. That was fun. It was fun watching Dawn Staley, coach of South Carolina, her greatness and just doing what she does and being able to shut everything down and completely control that game. Very proud of them. That was awesome and a fun time. And now the WNBA draft. It's on the 15th. You got 2 weeks. You win for Caitlin Clark. You just lose the championship. You got to immediately go from there to the draft on the 15th. And then the regular season for the WNBA begins on May 14th. So no days off. No days off at all. I don't know if you had any thoughts about the championship game, Scott.
Yeah, UConn did what they needed to do with Purdue, is not so much slow down Zach Edey, but slow down the whole Purdue offense and just force them to feed him the ball. Just only go through one person at that point. I'm a little bit bitter about the start time, it being about 9:30.
That's
for
rough.
tip off. That's where I was kind of bitter. So I watched the first half and I was like, okay, let me go to bed. And I woke up to some good news that my bet landed for once. So that was nice. But no, I mean, congrats to South Carolina.
The real shocking win of the week.
I was a happy boy when I woke up the next morning. But yeah, I mean, South Carolina, I think it's one of those teams that is so good in women's basketball that they kind of get kicked to the wayside because you have all the national prominence that Iowa's been getting this past year with Caitlin Clark. UConn's always in there. LSU has been in there for the last couple of years with Angel Reese. So congrats to South Carolina. Congrats to Caitlin Clark for everything she's accomplished as well, even though she didn't get that championship. And can we bring up the Diana Taurasi shade real quick? Because what happened to women supporting women?
What shade did Taurasi throw? I didn't see any from the championship game of her and Sue Bird and their Manning cast kind of thing. I saw from the couple nights before, and Taurasi was hitting them with all the cock jokes again. Oh, geez.
Yeah, it's just, to me, it just seems like somebody who is just super, super bitter. I'm trying to find the exact quote so that way my words aren't skewed for you. Yeah, well, there's that. But yeah, no, she's just coming out pretty much saying like, hey, congratulations, you were able to kind of accomplish it, kind of in short form. You were able to accomplish doing that against 18-year-olds, but you're going to be in the WNBA playing with grown women who've been doing this for years. So good luck. It's just like you have somebody as a talent as Caitlin Clark and all the rest of the women that are coming out into this draft. And there has been more eyes on the sport in mass. You would think that somebody, regardless if they've never played a game in their life in the WNBA, that someone like Diana Taurasi, who's been a cornerstone of the WNBA for decades, would be the first person to champion someone like Caitlin Clark. It just gives off bitter vibes, and it just seems like there's no support, and it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, I can get that. I never heard the quotes or anything from her, but you can kind of see it happen because somebody else said something similar about Dawn State. Like, it's just like, and that's a sign of greatness, right? You're gonna have haters coming at you from every angle. That's what happens to us with the 3-2-3. We are on the same level.
Looking at you, Levitard.
Yeah, Levitard. That one dude Dylan on YouTube who didn't like the Reading Rainbow theme, asshole. But congrats to them. Congrats also to South Carolina's Camila Cardoso, who's going to be going in the draft too, who was unstoppable. She was a beast during that game. She was awesome. So big congrats to her. I realized looking at the NBA mock drafts, I don't recognize a single damn name that's coming out of there, that's coming out of college this year. I don't know if that's an issue for the men's basketball, but I'm glad to see that not knowing anybody outside of Zach Edey and DJ Burns in these games was like an issue. No Bronny.
But that's the thing that we've talked about plenty of times in sports, just in general. There's just so much parity, and then when you get into the NCAA, whether it's the women's bracket or the men's bracket, I mean, you can have these teams go on historic runs, and I don't care who you are, how close you follow these sports. There's no way that these people know every single player that played for every single team.
Not a chance.
And especially with how little draft picks there are in both respective leagues. I mean, hell, there's 2 rounds. You're having 64 players drafted on draft night, and then everyone else you're just picking up club options or signing some G League contract or going overseas and then just coming back over again in a couple of years. It's just like it's. I don't fault anybody for only knowing 2 names in these tournaments.
It's gonna happen. But congrats.
The one who only keeps up with football stuff, that's so wild to hear. It's only 2 rounds.
Congrats.
And then the flip side, you got the MLB draft.
Oh God! Don't even try.
There's 20 rounds in the MLB draft.
What the hell?
And you don't know anybody. I I only know players when the Nats have a top pick. Shout out to Dylan Cruz.
Can't even name any Nats players anymore.
Oh my God!
Can't name Steven Strasburg anymore as a Nats player.
Not even not to fall into the weeds there, but I was just looking at the Nats opening day roster, and I was shocked that I didn't recognize a name. I think the only name I recognized was like Joey Gallo, and then I was like, why the hell is Joey Gallo here?
How uncultured of you.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Is that a microaggression?
A little bit. Maybe. Well, look, while we were chatting about college basketball, there was big college basketball news. And, we're talking about, when you're talking about even college basketball, College Shame Day, we have the host right there, Scott Ellia. Coaching news is always big. And this is something that we had talked about a little bit before, but John Calipari, he's leaving the University of Kentucky after 15 years and a 2012 NCAA Championship to go to Arkansas. And with Arkansas, he's getting a huge $5 million NIL budget. Was this a big shock to anybody?
I'm sure it wasn't to Zoo.
Someone who just skimmed at that article when it happened to be scrolling through Twitter.
I mean, you got to look at Calipari's just his tenure in general. He's been in college basketball since the late 80s at UMass. He coached there for about almost 10 years, and he switched to Memphis, and he left Memphis in the late 2000s and joined Kentucky. He has the one championship, I believe, the one championship in the 2011-2012 team in Kentucky. Mm-hmm. He's had countless NCAA tournament, bids, about probably 4 or 5 Final Fours under his belt. I mean, his tenure is there. Just Kentucky alone, he has a 76% win percentage. Mm-hmm. So it's like he's still producing at a high level, but you have these traditional blue blood basketball teams like Kentucky who you can win all those games you want, but if you keep going to these tournaments and you're one and done, or you get to the second round, you're not even making Sweet 16s year after year. There has to be a change, and he's been getting a lot of heat for his style for bringing in kids who are these one and dones. They come in freshmen, maybe their sophomore year, they immediately go right to the draft. He's not trying to build any substantial rosters with some legacy players. So, I mean, Arkansas, that's a huge get for them. I'm very interested to see who Kentucky brings in, because that's going to be big shoes to fill in Kentucky.
Well, apparently Kentucky's there's been rumblings that they're looking at Baylor's head coach, Scott Drew, mm-hmm. and Chip Gaines of the famous Chip and Joanna Gaines is a Baylor alumni, and he is already fighting people on Twitter very aggressively, calling out people's mamas, everything to keep their team, to keep Kentucky away from Scott Drew. So we'll see what happens there. When something
also,
like
it's
this,
basketball, everyone has big shoes.
Oh, absolutely. Look at that. Where's the? What should we give him for that? That's fair.
Oh.
Scott, when we've talked about NIL affecting some of these legacy coaches and how they approach the game, and how it becomes a little harder for somebody like Nick Saban when Alabama's the top dog and can recruit anybody and get people, for years. But then when NIL comes, all of a sudden you can have a Miami. Players are being like, yeah, shit, I'll take the money and go to Miami. I don't need to go to Alabama. I don't need to win that championship. With John Calipari, he is famously the one and done coach. He is promising to get you to the NBA, and you're seeing that this year. Kentucky did not make it out of the first round, but they're still going to produce, I think, at least 2 top 5 picks
mm-hmm.
in the NBA draft this year. Does this just work out even more? He's taking a pay cut at Arkansas compared to what he's getting, what he was going to make at Kentucky. I think about $1 million short. But, I mean, NIL actually works for him, right?
Yeah, if anything, the NIL just balances the scales in everyone's favor. You can't just rely on the lineage that a coach brings, or if I have the choice between playing with a future Hall of Fame coach like Calipari or going somewhere where it's a mid-major school, I'm having just as much chance to get to the NCAA tournament as going to Arkansas, but I can make more money going there. I'm gonna have to be swayed a little bit.
Yeah.
And you got to look at, and we brought this up time and time again, especially during football season. If you don't see it more the only sport that I could see where it's really affecting kids outside of football, it's going to be basketball, because a lot of these kids come from areas where they don't have a lot of money. You know, these families are struggling to get by. They're spending all whatever money they do have for these kids to go to the, AAU tournaments and travel ball and leagues like that, or trying to move to different counties and states for their kid to get the best chance possible for their program. So it's an investment, because just because you go play in college doesn't mean you're going to play the NBA. So you might as well get that bag now.
Got to get with the program.
Program.
Well, continuing on a subject that we brought up last show, that is Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver Rashee Rice. Is it okay? Have we determined yet? Because I've heard it on every other show. It's either Rashee Rice or Rashee Rice. Can we just call him Racing Rice? Nobody died. Nobody
road rage Rice.
Nobody died in the accident, so I think we can call him something like Racing Rice or Road Rage Rice.
I like it.
Yeah, Rice. Arrest warrants. They've been issued for. Arrest warrants, 1 count of aggravated assault, 1 count of collision involving serious bodily injury, and 6 counts of collision involving injury. There's also an update that SMU cornerback Teddy Knox, who was the other driver involved in the multi-car crash in Dallas with Rice, has been suspended by the team, with SMU saying SMU takes these allegations seriously, the university said in a statement. Knox is facing the same charges as Rice. What do you foresee the future as being at least for Rice?
Not good. He's still young. Like you said, thankfully there wasn't any detrimental injuries, but it's still showing neglect and just sheer stupidity on his part. Yes, he's young. He's going to make stupid decisions, but if he's going to need to be held accountable. However many games that's going to be for suspension, it's going to be hefty. I think Roger Goodell really needs to lay the hammer down and make it known across the league, hey, this stuff will not be tolerated regardless if someone's, fatally injured or not.
I'm not going to do anything about that because it's missed money for the NFL's network.
Yeah. Well, okay. So Zoo, what kind of penalty would you labor down? Do you foresee the Chiefs cutting him in any way? Because this is an opportune time that this happens before the NFL draft as opposed to after.
It's interesting to think about, because we had the same thing with Jamin Davis too, where it's he went to court and he was guilty and this happened. He never missed a game though, right? Yeah. So I think all this stuff is so popular. I don't even think it's an NFL thing, because as long as nobody gets hurt, they're trying to get these players in the spotlight. I think it just comes down to judicial system at that point, where if you think it's becoming this much of a problem and you're trying to avoid another rug situation, make them take jail time during the NFL season. Yeah. Because I really don't think the NFL is going to openly do anything about it, especially for a consistently Super Bowl winning team that doesn't have wide receivers.
I like the idea of laying the hammer down on this just to set a precedent and to make a point to the rest. Because you're right, this seems to happen every offseason, right? In some type of racing or road incident, because Ruggs, and I forgot about Jamin Davis, there's been plenty of others. And also,
you had DeShazer Everett, where his girlfriend from high school died in a car accident, and he missed the rest of the season because he was in the hospital the rest of the time.
Well, and then it's you got to take a look from it from the standpoint, like you said, from the teams protecting their investment. He's set to get another $1 million, pretty much fully guaranteed for this coming season. Yeah. There has to be some kind of clause or some kind of ruling in these contracts from here on out, if not already established, that if any of these players are doing things like this, then no one voids their contract for that year, or and they'll reassess in a calendar year from there. But that's the only way you can really affect these players, is with their pocket. That's especially this young,
right?
And that's all he's getting.
That's the only way you can ever make a point just about anywhere. Attack the pocketbook.
Yeah, you were just talking about, college students, 18, 19-year-olds having this much money because their parents went through this and that, and this is how you're going to appreciate what your parents did to get you into the NFL and the NBA is just fucking up over cars.
Yeah, Dom Toretto in this bitch.
Well, it's Reed, and we talked about it last week. It just you are a culmination of who you surround yourself with. So if this is what he's doing and he thinks this is how he should be acting, it seems to me he needs to surround himself with more level-headed individuals.
Why do my eyes hurt? That was a search that reportedly spiked on Google during and shortly after the total solar eclipse this past Monday. So,
they weren't photographers that were editing all night.
Well, okay, let's talk to the person whose eyes already get damaged looking at lights, everything at a time. How tempted, Zoo? First off, okay, because this is something that also has been blowing my mind. Did either of you care about this? I thought it was really cool. I thought it was a very awesome experience and something to really like take in and behold. And I was very kind of taken back, and I shouldn't have been because I know how cynical the world is and how Larry David everybody's vibe is lately. And it was like, oh, gives a shit. It'll happen in 26 years. Do you want darkness? Wait till 8 o'clock. You'll get darkness then. I was down for it, even though we only got like an 87% eclipse here in Virginia.
Everyone's so excited about daylight savings and the sun setting later again. Then it's like, oh, hey, we got darkness for 2 minutes.
Right.
I love the dark.
Yeah. What did we want? So were you guys excited for it?
I'm excited in the sense... So, like, I wasn't like, I have to go out and see it because it's not like we were in an area where it was total eclipse anyways. So, I had no desire to like run out and see it at the time that it happened, but like other really renowned photographers like Peter McKinnon and then NASA and places like that get really cool shots. So I was more excited of like the products that came from the people who were like qualified to get stuff like that more than I was like being in Virginia during the event itself.
The space shot of it was really awesome.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I was excited enough, especially because the next one for at least the continuous, United States isn't until 2044. I'll be 54 years old at that point. So I just think it's something cool just to say, yeah, I looked at it. But I mean, I wasn't like going out of my way. I think I can remember when it happened. Like I was walking inside somewhere and they were like, hey, did you go look at it yet? I'm like, no, it's okay. I don't have any glasses. Like, oh, hey, take mine. So I just grabbed his glasses. I looked up. Okay, we're good. Gave him back and I just kept moving.
And that's why he has pink eye.
I said, shut the fuck up. What I do in my spare time is none of your business.
I'm sorry. I was just watching the Big Bang Theory pink eye episode.
Maybe the eclipse could burn off the pink eye. Who knows? Like maybe if you look directly at it, it could,
Well, we'll have to wait another 20 years.
Yeah.
But that's just standing in the sun, Reed.
Okay, well, how tempted were you?
We have to stand in the sun every day.
Do you see my complexion? Do you think I can just go stand out in the sun for hours on end, Zoo?
It was brighter and hotter than any other day. I was out there changing a headlight in the morning, and I could feel my neck crisping. And I looked up because I was like, it's not eclipse time, so I can look up at the sun and see why the fuck is it so bright. And I looked up, I was like, I had a fucking headache for like an hour after that, so I can't imagine actually looking at the eclipse.
I will also add that those glasses, I did not anticipate them being so dark.
Yeah.
Because like when I first put them on, I looked up, I was like, wait, where the fuck's the sun? So I, without even thinking about it, I just instinctively just took them off, blinded immediately, and then I had to put them back on again. I was like, okay, we're good. We can see it.
Have you tried to put them on afterward? First off, it was impossible to find them like anywhere. I remember seeing them at Walmart like a month ago for like $5 for a 10-pack. And then it was like apparently leveled up to like $20 for the same pack.
Jesus.
Just a week ago. So leave it to us. Leave it to America to really ratchet up the price on that.
Capitalism, man.
I will, to answer the question though, I did the stupid in me was very tempted to look at it without the glasses, just to be like, yeah. I didn't have glasses on me at the moment. I had to get them from the school. I put on 3 pairs of sunglasses to look at it the first time. It definitely didn't do it justice. I felt like Inspector Gadget. Finally, we have some news to report. NFL Hall of Famer OJ Simpson, who was famously acquitted for the 1994 murders of his wife Nicole and best friend Ron Goldman, has died from cancer at the age of 76. Damn. Now who's going to find the killer? He was that close.
Didn't do it.
He was
Didn't
that
do it.
close. He said he couldn't ride a bus. He said he couldn't ride a bus because he was afraid the killer would be right next to him.
Jesus.
Could just be looking in the reflection. I don't know. Oh my God, the jokes.
His regular car doesn't have mirrors.
The jokes have been like flying on social media about OJ
TikTok
dying.
has been blowing up.
Oh my God.
Carrot had no chill.
You're gonna, even the weather apps are throwing it at you. They're saying, but seriously, though, like, what a complicated figure to talk about, right? Especially with like sports media. I mean, we can, we make the jokes and we talk. OJ Simpson was a character on this show. Yeah, we are. Yeah, we are a joke. OJ Simpson was a character on this show with our NIL deal. Back during the start of the show.
We're gonna have to find a new sponsor.
I know we're gonna have to find a new celebrity figure on there, unless we can just do a seance around Halloween. But he really is considered one of the greatest running backs in the history of the sport. Like what he did. I mean, Dave Chappelle had the famous quote. It was like, "Yeah, Sharon, that's terrible what he did, but the man did have 11,000 yards. Like, he ran for 2,000 yards in one season when there was only 14 games." You talk about, like, he has these records. He has this legacy with the Buffalo Bills, but you're always going to think about the trial first. You're going to think about the chase on the highway and the Ford Bronco first. So, like, what are you all's fleeting thoughts on OJ Simpson as he fades away here at the age of 76?
To be honest, I already thought he was dead. So, like, when I saw it, when my phone blew up this morning about it, I was like, "Oh, he's just now dying."
You know how
he already died.
I just didn't know he was that old.
You know how I knew he wasn't dead? He was doing sports media. That's the point that we've got. That's how saturated the market has gotten. Is that they had OJ Simpson doing picks. He was the celebrity game picker during the NFL season for Cameron and Maze's podcast.
Well, if Cameron and Maze need another celebrity guest picker, just hit the socials. I'll go on there.
We could have had that.
We could have been there. And we could have done a follow-up show. Yeah. OJ can't do a follow-up show now.
No, exactly. He was getting like really like on the line too, like making jokes about getting away with things. How you just, you gotta keep some things secret. You gotta keep them close to the chest.
My question is, so he's on his deathbed. He's surrounded by his family and his loved ones. Do you think before he took his last breath, he just looked somebody dead in the eye like, "I did it," just died? And now that person's stuck with that knowledge and they don't know what to do with it because they don't have OJ to back it up anymore.
Or he just looks over, just a little wink.
Just winks.
Yeah, just I mean, this is the proper way to handle this whole thing. But Scott, the first thing, that's what I woke up. I woke up from a nap, and I woke up to the news of OJ dying via Scott with the hashtag "He didn't do it."
Didn't do it.
It's his biggest supporter there is Scott Ellia, and also somebody's uncle in Fluvanna probably, who's just very adamant about it at every cookout. So we have actually a message. I talked about a seance, but we actually have a very special message for Scott from the man himself. It's not even like pre-taped or anything. No, we have him. We have our
excited.
Our astral contributor, our astral correspondent, OJ Simpson, is here to present a top 5 because he knows that Scott is the only one that can keep this investigation going for him while he's away. So let's just go ahead and get to the top 5 music and get the Ghost of OJ Simpson in here. Let's do it.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
This is the 323's Top 5.
Oh, shit. Here we go again.
Hey, living world. It's me, yours truly. Oh, hey, Scotty. I missed you, buddy.
OJ, it's you.
Oh, I've been missing you ever since the NIL deal, but we gotta do what we gotta do. Life hits you in crazy ways, and now that I'm gone, there's no one to search for my beloved Nicole's killer. So I'm leaving my top 5 list of suspects to the only person I trust to carry on my investigation, my legacy, my genius comedic chops, Scott Ellia.
Wink.
College Shame Day. Oh, winkin', you do, yes. Oh, Curry Puff, I love you. I've been a big fan of him.
I'll never take your fat out off my wall.
Oh, I know you wouldn't. So,
Or I'll haunt you.
let's go ahead and get to my top 5 right here. And you can get down with these suspects, Scotty. I know that you know I did. You know I didn't do it. Everybody, Johnny got me. Everybody got me. We're on this. So number 5 on the top 5 people who did it. Got the Zodiac Killer, of course. Of course, the Zodiac Killer did it. Where's that fanfare? The Zodiac Killer, because of course he did all the others. Why not? Why not? Why wouldn't he have done it? I don't know if the timelines match up. I didn't finish the movie, but he could have very well did it. Why not? Anybody but me.
I mean, OJ, you bring up a good point, because if one thing that the Zodiac really teaches you, it's never trust a white man with glasses. And you got him, you got Jeffrey Dahmer, you got Ted Bundy, all these white guys with glasses.
Damn right. And what do I look like? Not that.
Not a white guy with glasses.
Nope. So let's keep it going right here. Number 4, I would say is, well, probably the opposite of this. I would say, because it's California, it's a white woman who was murdered. You just don't know how these people are going to act. I'd say it's some burly, menacing black guy. You can't trust them, you know? It's not for you every day. It's just some black dude. No, not him. I'm not black. I'm OJ. I famously said that. It would be somebody. That's right. That son of a bitch right there. Yeah. Marcus Allen. Put him on the list. That's my number 4. Number 3. You all were talking about him last week. Shohei Ohtani. Now, just to confirm, as you all did too, he did not do the sports betting stuff. He's very litigious. He did not do that. Couldn't have, wouldn't have, absolutely not. That's OJ Simpson certified. But just look into where he was that night in 1994. And don't give me that lame-ass excuse, Scott, that he was born a month after the murder. It could be anybody. Anybody. Could be Curry Puff down there taking pictures, trying to get proof of us, what we're doing, trying to get ahead of the curve. I see you.
Yep. And I would just like to add, OJ, just for legality reasons, Shohei, if you're listening to this, you are innocent of betting. I am on your side with this, but I do have questions where you were in September of 94.
That's right. I don't want those heavenly lawyers coming after me in the good old pearly gates. You know I'm there.
By the way, OJ, the Helldivers were trying to recruit me. I was trying to tell them I was too busy with this trying case.
Well, look, that's good, because we're not going to hell. Nobody in this chat right now is going to hell.
Nope.
The very opposite. Maybe Ohtani. Number 2, I have George Clinton of Parliament Funkadelic. And I have him on there because I have him on tape confessing.
Yeah, I did it. I cried 2 tears in a bucket. Fuck it. Let's take it to the stage.
Told you.
The atomic dog himself?
The atomic dog did that shit.
Oh, George.
He did it.
I'll look into it.
You look into it. But my number 1 on people who did it, and I leave this to you in confidence and in faith, because this is my last appearance on the show. It was me. I did that shit.
Got it.
No.
Got all of you.
You didn't.
Have a good one, Scott Elliott. Keep that investigation going, and I'm telling you, look into Ohtani. He did that shit. Did you know we did have actual footage of OJ dying, though?
Uh-oh.
Wonderful.
Whoa! Oh, Frank, everyone should have a friend like you.
I wonder if he ever did catch that flight.
Oh my God, I hope so. Oh, but look, OJ is actually a really great transition piece into our main topic tonight. because his trial was the premise of what I think was one of the best miniseries of the century. And that was American Crime Story, The People versus OJ Simpson, which was on FX. It was a awesome, very well done series. Cuba Gooding Jr., pre-canceled, was playing OJ in that series. Launched the career of Sterling K. Brown, now an Oscar nominee. Sarah Paulson was fantastic. Courtney B. Vance. It was a whole all-star cast in there. And FX is a network that's home to really incredible TV, and one that Zoo actually brought up, and I was very excited to get into this conversation because I love the network. I love pretty much everything that FX puts out. I will give it a shot and have some type of faith in it. But Zoo, you've been watching Shogun, I believe is the new show on FX. So how have you been feeling about that and the network in general?
Oh, I absolutely love it so far. What's funny, the only thing that got me to start watching is because one of the main actresses, the one who plays Mirko, was in Monarch Legacy of Monsters, which is on Apple TV. And we got a few things to say about that as well. But it's a show that's like a year after the Godzilla attack from the 2014 movie. So I was like, oh, cool. She's in a show about samurais. Like, say no more. Did not know that it was based off of a famous book. Did not know that there was a miniseries off of that book in like the 80s, I think. 70s or 80s. So I just went into it blind, just, you know, being a weeb and seeing a show about, you know, all Japanese stuff. The first episode was, they dropped the first two episodes at the same time. First one was very like foundational, so I was like, okay, yeah, this is pretty good. I might have like set the bar a little too high, and then from there it was just like all Game of Thrones vibes. Like the creators keep saying stop comparing it to Game of Thrones, but it's just like the way that it's done is just so good. It's like you can't not compare it to that. And I think it's become that much of a phenomenon too. Whereas just like the way that people are talking about this, just the little details and the nuances, and it's a beautifully done show. One of the podcasts I've been listening to, The Prestige, one of the hosts is like reading the book along with the show. So she's never read the book before, but she's like comparing the progress, and apparently it's been like very close to it. But the way that it was written, there's some stuff that didn't like completely respect the culture. So the changes that they made was to like account for things of that sort. So overall, I've just been really happy with the show, and the fact that the news about Shogun's popularity and The Bear filming seasons 3 and 4 at the same time, that's what clicked to me. That I was just like, man, FX really does have a lot of good content. And I didn't realize like how many shows I was actually just a really big fan of. Had a couple of them down, haven't put them in any particular order yet, but it was with just not being on here for a while, we were talking about wanting to do stuff with shows and TV. So once that popped up, I was like, oh yeah, I know exactly what we're talking about, because you're one of the people who got me to start watching The Bear. So
I'm glad that you got into the stress of that show.
Yeah,
it's
good God, watching it on the plane was a nightmare too.
And it's something that FX kind of specializes in, and is stress and drama. But I will ask both of you, and Scott, I mean, are you a big TV person?
Not so much over the last probably 5 to 10 years, because, you know, I was probably one of the ones that really pulled the plug as far as cable television goes and just went exclusively to like Netflix when that was the only thing on. But and now my TV is run by a 7 and a 5-year-old. So so whatever they put on is what I'm watching.
I'll tell you what though, man, I accidentally wound up on Bluey the other day, and I think that's Prestige TV. That got me hooked in. And I'll ask, people bring up this saying that we're in a golden era of Prestige TV and a golden era of television, but I've been hearing that since like the mid 2000s, like even with NBC and NBC's like Thursday night comedy lineup that they were doing, when it was like 30 Rock, Community, Parks and Rec, and The Office all, you know, bunched together. Let me ask you, do you think that we're in a golden era of television, or have you seen a golden era, you know, in your time, or is the industry just oversaturated right now with how many options that you have?
I don't even think it's oversaturated as much as it is well diversified. I think that with COVID getting people to stop going to the theaters as much and more budget going towards what they can do with shows on these streaming services, that's kind of what's elevated the quality of what you can get out of shows. Like there have been times where there's just a lot of good content to watch and a lot of things that are evolving, but the cinematic quality just was never there for it, right? It's like, oh, it's a TV show, like how good could it be? Or like, man, if they had movie budget, like what could it be like? And HBO announcing that they're, doing a Harry Potter series off of the books is a prime example of that. Like this is how much they were able to do with the movies, but obviously it needs to be in a show format so that you can get more out of it. Everything was too rushed, everything was too compressed. Go listen to Peeves Gabfest to hear me talk more about that. The whole podcast is dedicated to that. So to have that option now, whereas you can have theater quality production to get 10 episodes and 10 hours worth of storytelling, I think that's what's bringing it to true golden age, because it's not at that same point where, okay, Stranger Things has this budget, it's as popular as it is, and the horror people are watching it just so they can fit into the pop culture. Mandalorian is as popular as it is, and people are watching Star Wars so they can be part of the conversation. Now, there's just a new standard that shows are being made with that production quality. So it's not even like you have to keep up with something just so that you can be part of the conversation. There's actually more stuff that's out there for everyone.
Right. And it's like really the best kind of analogy I can make for nowadays, because I don't find, like, I'm right there with you. I don't find it being oversaturated, but it's definitely different between now and, like, say, the 90s, which I do feel if you're going in like the age of like television, the 90s to me was the golden age of TV itself. But you're going from a proverbial, buffet where you can only watch content in one spot, and that's just your TV. And you got to pick a channel. You can't jump back and forth. You got commercials to deal with. But now you get into this era now where, and you got
to make sure you're free to watch it when it airs.
Right. And God forbid you had to go take a 20-minute crap in the toilet when you're in the middle of a home improvement. But but now you're going from a buffet style where everything is in one spot to where now you have, a whole strip mall worth of restaurants. You can pick and choose which one you want to go to. You can stay at one because you trust how they produce things more than the other one. They have better content and things of that nature. But if you're asking the question as far as what the golden era in television is, it's definitely the 90s. Because, you have that's where I think Nickelodeon and Disney was at its peak. We had the big discussion for A Quiet on Set last week, but that's definitely, to me, when that was at its highest. You can make the argument that's when SNL was at its highest. You have a lot of these, culture defining shows like ER and Seinfeld and The Simpsons that's still going, and Friends that has a huge impact.
But as the cartoons and anime definitely started making more of an impact at that time.
Right. And it's like, that's where I think a lot of the success and things that we're seeing now is because you saw this all start in the 90s, where most of us in the millennial group are driving these these producers and these networks to make these shows that we want, because this is what we grew up on.
I feel that. And right now, like we're talking about just in terms of options, right? It's not the big four networks anymore that you have to look to. And that's evolved in and of itself. I mean, before you had ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox came along a little later, and they're the main competition. You got the WB channel, came the CW, and then HBO becomes the big defining thing. It's not TV,
now
it's HBO.
Max.
Now it's just Max. Yeah, now you got
Discovery and their tail branding.
It goes to streaming, to where now you have HBO and you have Max. You have Max originals, you have HBO originals. They're airing at the same time, but you got to find them different places. Netflix is in the game, Amazon's in the game, Apple is in the game. And like you said, Zoo, I think what elevates everything quite a bit is the money. When you have companies like Apple and Amazon coming into, the foray, you start getting shows like Monarch. You said Monarch. Monarch is something I never would have imagined as a kid to be a show. I was a big Godzilla fan. I never thought that there would be a TV show where you're getting 10 episodes of Godzilla, and it's incredible effects, incredible quality. You're not just getting like a monster in the last 10 minutes to use up the budget. No, you're getting
It's part of the story.
Yeah, it's very much part of the story and all these different cool things, and all these different video game adaptations can now start to happen because they're able to use effects. Like they have the Halo show, which I think has gotten better in its second season, according to some people on Paramount. You've got The Last of Us, which is a massive, massive show on HBO and is able to utilize the whole setting of that video game. And you're just able to do so much more right now. When it comes to these networks and these streaming channels, what do you guys think is the best one? We brought up FX, but HBO was kind of running the game for a minute. AMC is a network that was like the hottest thing for like the whole 2008 to 2000 mid 2010s range, where they had Mad Men, Breaking Bad, and The Walking Dead kind of raging all at the same time before Game of Thrones started destroying Sunday nights. And now you have the streamers. So which one do you look forward to the most? Which one do you trust the most, Scott? Like, which one would you go to first to get high quality TV?
Of like new shows? Like,
Yeah,
if I'm
like
taking out the fact of like I have to go to Peacock to watch The Office.
Right, like a new
Or
show.
we're talking about like new production.
Yeah, you're hearing about a new show that's going to come on. Yeah.
I would probably end up trusting Max the most, but with their run of success and their shows that they've been able to produce in the last, almost 30 years of operation. I mean, even most recently, Tokyo Vice just came out, and that was a series that I've absolutely just loved. Me and Zoo are kind of in opposite corners right now because I've watched this and I've been meaning to watch Shogun, and he's been watching Shogun. He's been meaning to watch that, but I can't commit myself to two shows at the same time. So, but yeah, no, I would trust Max probably the most.
Funny, I've been meaning to watch both of those shows, and I wound up watching Ricky Stenicki the other night on Amazon.
How is that a compromise? How is that a compromise?
I couldn't choose, and then I saw the stupid John Cena movie. I was like, I'm just going to watch this. Put it on. I just panicked.
How was it, by the way?
It was,
because I have not watched it yet.
It's exactly what you expect from the trailer,
Okay.
and I think that's a good review.
Okay.
I think it's not bad. It's pretty shitty people that you're just watching stupid comedy come to.
I just want to know what your train of thought was. Man, I need to watch Shogun or I need to watch Tokyo Vice. Ooh, Ricky Stenicki. Let's go watch Zac Efron real quick.
It wasn't ooh, it was panic of like trying to decide. I was like, oh, I'm going to start a brand new show here. And I had just started this 9/11 documentary. I was like, oh, no, I need the right vibes here. So then it became a decision of trying to figure out if I'm going to watch Ricky Stenicki or the new Roadhouse with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Oh, God.
That's coming up next. That will delay everything. Well, look, you brought up HBO as being a trusted one. Zoo has brought up FX as being a trusted one. I think that we go into a triple layer top 5 tonight.
Ooh.
And we are going to do top 5 shows from FX. Zoo is going to present that one. Scott is going to do the top 5 shows from HBO. And then I'm going to go the streaming side. I'm going to go top 5 Netflix shows. And
Oh. Can I screen
We
grab
overloaded
that?
him again.
Oh, no.
Oh, we missed him.
I was going to try to screen grab that.
Oh, what a cliffhanger. That's where we're going to put the Eric Andre music on there. And but yes, I'll be doing top 5 Netflix shows. We'll have plenty of other things too. Scott and I both made lists for the HBO and Netflix shows because we didn't know who was doing what. Zoo has a list of Apple shows too, which I'm actually really impressed by because they're a newer streamer when it comes to TV. But
Every time one show ends, another banger just starts right up.
they are very much about quality, like over quantity, and I'm happy about it. But now the quantity's coming too. But I do have a bone to pick with them. But we'll get to that. We'll get to them. Right now, let's just hit the music.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
This is the 323's Top 5.
Oh, shit. Here we go again.
That's right. This is the 323's top 5. We are going to go. We're actually just going to dedicate time to each one. And Zoo brought this up first, so I would love to hear him go first on the top 5 FX shows if he's ready for it. Otherwise, we can always, push, and one of us can go. We have 3 top 5 lists to do. So, all right, Zoo's ready. We'll get with the top 5 FX shows. Now, you're doing all-time shows, I'm assuming?
What do you mean?
Just like shows that have aired in FX's history? Or are you just going
yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right, that'll work. And are we before I add anything into mine, are we just doing like scripted shows? Because I don't know what you all did for yours.
I did scripted shows like dramas.
Okay. I didn't want to limit you guys.
Well, I don't want to limit you.
I kind of went that route.
Perfect. Well, Zoo, kick us off. I have some to get in here too, but I'm going to let you go through yours. Do you have any OLIs before you jump in there?
Yeah, one show that I just loved when it first came out. It had a great first season, but I think it kind of like dropped as it went. Wilfred.
Oh, I was gonna guess that you were gonna say Wilfred.
That's the Elijah Wood show, right?
Yeah, where he's looking at a dude in a dog suit, and everybody else sees him as a dog. And like as you get closer to figuring out like what's actually happening in this and that, the story just kind of like derails itself. But just the comedy and the mystery of that one was just absolutely wonderful. It had a great first season. I wish it just kind of maintained that amazingness throughout the rest of it. But one that is 2 seasons in and actually is incredible. The only reason it is my number 5 is because it's still going. That is The Bear.
Love The Bear.
It was just someone told me to watch it. I had flights coming up. It was like, only 2 seasons. Let me binge it on the way there. Just every episode just has you on your toes. Who would have thought anything about just cooking would keep you so engaged? Some people just don't even watch it because they need to be on anxiety medication after every episode. And once people say that, I'm just kind of like, okay, at least you gave it a try. But
that's why I don't like it.
If you haven't been able to, if you need something to watch and you're able to stomach high anxiety situations, check out The Bear.
It's one of the most stressful things I've ever watched. It seems like each season now is going to have one episode that just ramps up your anxiety.
Yeah. I didn't know one episode was going to be a movie either. It was just, how is this still going?
Yeah. Yeah. Nonstop. All right. Okay, that's a strong number 5. Number 4 for you?
Number 4, because it's still going on, we're going with Shogun.
That's really impressive that's already number 4.
Yeah, it plans on being its only season. It's 8 episodes in. I haven't watched episode 8 yet just because stupid business owner. It has an incredible start, great cast. The fact that in such a short amount of time they've been able to develop such character development, make you actually care about them and want to know more about them, and you think you're going to know what's going to happen, and something just keeps you on edge. And there isn't even that much action in it, but when it is in there, it's really good. So overall, just great storytelling and a very impressive job by the creators of Shogun.
Perfect. Number 3?
Number 3 is a show that wrapped up last year. Good God, this is a show insane and hilarious. We're going with Dave. A show about Little Dicky. It has great music, great humor, great storytelling, lots of intense situations. I just kind of started watching the show because screw it, why not? And yeah, it's had me hooked every episode since.
I heard the second season fell off a little bit, but it came back around the 3rd.
Yeah, that's accurate.
All right. I like Little Dicky.
Maybe I got to give it another chance because that's where I fell off with season 2. So maybe I got to go back and watch it.
I know Chloe Bennett from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was in there at some point. I want to check it out.
3. She was in quite a few episodes in 3.
I'm down for more Daisy. I'm down for more Quake.
Mm-hmm. She's in Invincible too.
What? Oh, I need to get on this.
Only in like 1 episode, but
okay. I'll watch.
You got to find out which one.
Yeah. Number 2.
Number 2. So my last 2 are going to be older ones and the ones that got me into FX to begin with. So we are starting off with Sons of Anarchy. This is where my man crush on Charlie Hunnam began. Great storytelling, just very intense storytelling. I think this is the show that kind of diverted me from watching a bunch of animated content into, shows with actual people.
Okay. I've seen a good deal of Sons of Anarchy, but I think I've actually seen more of Mayans, which was the
And I haven't
sequel
seen any of that.
spinoff or something. Yeah.
Yeah, the spin-off afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Okay. SOA. That's a good one. Number 2. Number 1. The number 1 FX show, according to Zuhair Ali, is...
Yeah, the one that got me into FX, the one that set the standard, Rescue Me.
Oh, I forgot about that.
That show is just a tearjerker. I mean, all the dialogue is absolutely hilarious, but the storytelling and just the way that everything in that progressed, and yeah, just a fantastic freaking show.
That's pretty great. Okay. What a list. This is how strong that network is, too, because I didn't...
Oh, I had one more honorable mention on here. Sorry.
What was that? Because
Season 1 of American Horror Story.
Okay, yeah, that's a strong. I was gonna bring.
I'm not a horror fan, and I couldn't put that show down. And then Season 2 was like, what is going on here? Like, I just couldn't. And then I never watched after Season 2. Kind of disappointed me. But 1,
you kind of you can kind of like pick and choose your seasons, like out of what kind of style you're gonna go for. Like, I loved 1984. I thought that was like a really cool homage to slasher films.
I heard it was really good.
The Roanoke one was wild.
Yeah, that was terrifying in parts. And then just like the rapid like switch that they'll do mid-season of the show and the style and what you're actually watching. It's crazy.
I'm surprised, being a football fan, that the league didn't make your list anywhere.
So I didn't start watching football until like end of high school, beginning of college. So I just didn't know or care about the league at all at that time. I don't think it was until like way later. So now it's like if I watch it, will I even like understand like who they're talking about, type of thing.
Yeah, no, you'd still appreciate it. And did I not hear Always Sunny on your list? Is that just your hatred with Philly?
Because of my Apple TV list, you will know that there's a love for McElhenney.
Okay.
But no, that's just another show I just never got into. Like, I just never made the attempt.
Right. I will give a recommendation, especially if you want to take it with a grain of salt by someone who doesn't watch as much TV as anybody else. But Fargo is actually a really good series to go watch,
I've heard,
too.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. And it's one of those anthology shows, too.
Mm-hmm.
Is that done yet?
The latest season just finished. Season 5 just finished. And see, the thing is, like, it's a different story every year with every season. So you can theoretically pick up from any season, but I would recommend starting at season 1. Season 1 is a fantastic story. Season 2 is arguably my favorite, and it's set a little bit before season 1.
Was it Atlanta FX show?
Atlanta was an FX show.
I haven't seen that one either.
Okay. I just can't remember what network they were on.
The League is a show I've never seen either. Weirdly, as a football fan, and now I feel like we should do a league watch podcast.
Yes, I could watch that series backwards and forwards. It's so good. There are some times where it kind of dips a little bit, and you kind of have to muscle through, but it's still humor that still holds up. It's with things that I know us three kind of share as far as interests go. It's a good time.
What We Do in the Shadows is a show I highly recommend.
I haven't given it a try yet. I keep hearing good things.
God, it's so weird. It's such a weird, funny show. The things that they come up with and the effects that they have on there are just insane. But I'd recommend that. Reservation Dogs is another show that just finished 3 seasons, and that was a wonderfully poignant and very funny show that just like dove into the life of Native American people and reservation life on the daily. But there's so many shows. We mentioned all of them. Fargo, Atlanta, Always Sunny, Reservation Dogs. Better Things is a fantastic show that Pamela Adlon created. She was the voice of Bobby Hill on King of the Hill and used that on the show.
Drop in the comments what your favorite is.
Exactly. Louis, the canceled Louis.
That was a great first.
That was a great show. Justified. Tyrant's a show that I think kind of like was off to the side, but I loved it. About this this fictional Middle Eastern country and its ruler, and this miniseries for all the Mormons and ex-Mormons listening. Under the Banner of Heaven with Andrew Garfield. Fantastic limited series on FX that dove into some murders involved with the Mormon Church. FX. They have the drama. But Scott's going to bring the drama right now. Top 5 HBO. Actually, you know what? I think I'm going to go next because I think HBO has the biggest hit right here, right? I think HBO has such a legacy.
It's so yes,
because
the list is so extensive. I narrated the top 5 of my shows, but it's not saying that if the show isn't in the top 5 doesn't mean it's not a good show. There's plenty of LLIs. I think that the discussion between the 3 of us for HBO is going to be a lot more extensive. Oh, yeah. So it makes sense for you to go Netflix.
I'll go Netflix just because it's a little newer to the game than these others. Even than FX. Netflix started getting into original shows and away from the mail-in DVD rentals around the mid-2010s, I want to say. And I will start here. I love Netflix. What's your question?
Are the Marvel shows?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll consider those Netflix shows because they were on Netflix originally and they were there for so
Netflix
long.
originals that moved to Disney, yeah. Okay.
So
number 5, Tiger King.
Yeah.
Is that why you asked for scripted shows? Were you going to put Tiger King in there?
I didn't even think about Tiger King. Actually,
we brought it up earlier.
Yeah, because
we were trying to find out the show that has like the most watched hours or something. Is that what it was, Scott?
Yeah. I was looking at Netflix's most popular list, and there's a particular season of a show that has over 1.7 billion hours viewed of it.
Holy shit! I was more asking the unscripted one for HBO actually, and we'll get to that.
All right, let's get to the list
there. Yeah, but Netflix, Netflix has a thing where it has like such an overwhelming amount of content that I have a hard time starting something and finishing through it. If the content dips just a little bit in quality, I will find myself away from it. That happened with Bloodline. It's happened with a number of shows for me. But just on OLI, I had a couple of OLI shows. The Haunting of Hill House was one that I watched kind of sparingly, but I remember what got me into it was just like one clip that I walked in the kitchen while my mom was watching it one time, and I walked in, just looked like a normal conversation happening, and then something scared the shit out of me. It just took me completely back. I had to watch some more of the show just to get in through that. I love the creator, Mike Flanagan. Love what he does. I Think You Should Leave with Tim Robinson. That didn't make the cut for me, even though it's incredibly memeable. Black Mirror is a great modern Twilight Zone. Wednesday, I love the first season of that. That's OLI. Daredevil, Marvel. That did not make it for me. It is an OLI though, but I love that show.
I didn't even know anything else that you named.
And House of Cards, that's an OLI for me. Kevin Spacey, the famed Frank Underwood on there. But number 5 for me might be one of the first Netflix shows I kind of fell in love with from Tina Fey post 30 Rock. It's Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt.
I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to bring that up as a joke, and I'm glad that you actually have it in there.
What, the Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt?
That's such a great show, and people hate on it so much for whatever reason.
I don't know why. I loved that when it first started. I loved Ellie Kemper on there, like it was post Office for her. I love Titus. Her gay black roommate. I will forever just remember a quote of him talking about how he was in an all-black production of Oklahoma called Alabama. I just love that show. Number four, it's a newer show. It's only had one season. It's going to be an anthology show, so I can count it good in my head on this, and that is Beef. Ooh. Beef was it's a show with Steven Yeun. It came on last year, I believe. Steven Yeun, and I can't remember the woman's name on there, but it was about road rage, basically. That's the basic plot, is somebody steals they just cut the other one off.
Oh, it's Ali Wong.
Ali Wong, yes. It's just simple road rage. just turns into these two people who cannot let it go and are continuously ruining each other's lives, and it's an incredible like spiral into rage and uncontrolled passion. And it's I think it's just a wild ride of a show. I think everybody should check out. Number 3, it's one of Netflix's OGs. It's one of their first huge hits. That is Orange is the New Black. About an all-women's prison, had a huge ensemble cast, put out a lot of names afterward, a lot of memorable characters. It touched on a lot of heavy subjects, but it was also really hilarious at a lot of different times. Incredibly bingeable show, introduced the whole binging session to me. Love Orange is the New Black. Number 2, it's another person from that NBC slate that we were talking about, that big Thursday night slate. This one came from Parks and Rec. It was Aziz Ansari's show, Master of None.
Oh, finally a show I've seen.
For the culture.
Master of None. I love Master of None. I think it was
first
one of
two
the
seasons.
First 2 seasons. I actually haven't watched the 3rd season just because I know
couldn't get through it.
I know. Yeah. I like that character that they kind of spun off for the 3rd season, but I just wasn't interested. I was much more interested.
It didn't capture the essence of the show. It was just like weirdly depressing.
See, I like that like once a season for Master of None, but the first 2 seasons all count as their own thing. I love that show. I kind of hope he explores it again a little in the future with his character. I know he wanted to take time off of it, not only because of Me Too movement that kind of clipped him in a weird way. That's a conversation in and of itself of the movement.
Had an episode about it.
Yeah, there was an episode to it, and I know he wanted to take time off to have more life experience because the show was so deeply personal, and he really dove into his own life and searched for love in a mid-20s to 30s range. I think it's a really genius, loving show. But number one can't really be a surprise to too many people. It is the crown jewel of Netflix. It's one that I have to, it could be basic, but I have to go with it because I love it every season. That is Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Can't not love Stranger Things. Show gets bigger and bigger every year, and I mean the hell out of that because the last season I thought I was going to be able to, binged it. It was like 9:30. I was like, okay, I can watch the finale. Let me just go ahead and start the finale. I started up. It said 2 hours.
Like 2.5 hours.
Yeah, I was like, what the hell? I was like, that's not an episode. That's a jam-packed episode. That's not an episode. But I love the show. I love the cast. I love, watching these kids grow up and the adventures that happen and the story it's telling. We're going to get into a huge super final season at some point. I don't know when that's coming, but I'm looking forward to it. Love Stranger Things. That's my list. I don't know if there's any objections.
This list honestly made me wonder why I still have a Netflix account because I've only seen 3 of the things you mentioned, and one was I didn't even put it on the list.
There's so much. There's so much.
I have been wanting to watch The Gentleman though, because the movie The Gentleman is one of my all-time favorites. I cannot express how many times I've seen it. So the fact that there's a spin-off series is something that I definitely want to check out.
Yeah, and going into this show this evening and prepping and me and you not agreeing about who's taking which one between HBO and Netflix, I had already went ahead and prepped a top 5 for Netflix, and there's only one that me and you share, and that's the number 1 spot of Stranger Things. Other than that, I mean, The Witcher is a fantastic series to go and watch. Squid Game, even though it only had that 1 season, I think that sucked in a lot of people.
I haven't watched Squid Game. I
loved it.
That was a good one.
I'm very excited for season 2. A show that I haven't given the time of day, but I know is huge in certain circles. It's Bridgerton. I heard. Yeah. I guess that's a huge show. And the show that pisses me off to this day that they haven't done anything extra with it. It's Mindhunter. I don't know why they haven't done anything more. It's psychology of serial killers, and it's based, pretty close to home because one of the characters lived in Fredericksburg. It's just a really great series, and I'm very upset that they just stopped it.
Oh, Castlevania. That's another one worth checking out.
Ooh.
That one was just fucking bonkers.
Isn't BoJack Horseman a Netflix show too? That's one I haven't seen, but I always see on like a best of list.
I believe so, but I'm sure Zoo's seen it. But Disenchantment is a Netflix show.
Yet.
Oh, it's so good.
That's from the creators of Futurama and
Yep.
Yeah, I remember seeing a trailer and I was just kind of, this looks so stupid. I need to see it.
It's so funny.
Well, look, I think that's a good conversation there, but that's the appetizer, right? That's the soup of this meal. Let's get to the meat and potatoes. Bringing it back for this. That is HBO. The meat and potatoes. We have HBO, top 5 HBO shows according to Scott Ellia. Scott, OLIs, anything you got? I'm sure
it's a mile long.
Yeah,
It's a mile long. I won't dive into deep on any of them because I'm sure I'm going to rattle off a couple names that aren't going to be in my top 5 that one of you, or if not both of you, will bring up post
I already
top
have one.
5.
I know what's not on your
But
list.
like True Detective was a great show.
Yeah.
Kirby Enthusiasm's awesome. Sex and the City is another one of those great guilty pleasure shows that I like to watch. Barry is amazing. Eastbound and Down, Silicon Valley, Westworld, Chernobyl, even though it was one season, like Deadwood, like Band of Brothers, like there's so Succession, which I haven't watched it yet. It's on my backlog, but like it's just, that's why I said I trust HBO the most, because they have such a tenured history and just long-standing, list of shows that are just banger after banger.
I've only seen one thing out of everything you just dropped.
Oh my! And if somebody tells me that they like the show Entourage, you're telling me exactly what I need to know about you, and I do not want to associate myself with you anymore. I will say that right now.
I never watched Entourage. I watched its like sibling show, Ballers.
It's so fucking stupid, but I digress. Anyways, going in at number 5, we've already talked about it before. It has made my top 5, and that is Tokyo Vice. Series based on American journalist Jake Adelstein. Dives into like, the dark underbelly that is Tokyo in the late 90s. If you haven't given a chance yet, do it. I will say it is a very time investing burn, because I think each episode is at least like an hour long. And a lot of it's mixed between Japanese and English. So if you don't have your subtitles on, it's going to be kind of a pain in the butt unless you know how to speak Japanese.
Automatically turn it on for the Japanese parts?
No, it does.
Oh, okay.
But it's like, if you're not one who's like, I guess when you get older, I find myself watching more shows now with subtitles than I do without subtitles. So if you're not
subtitles when I'm eating a snack.
Fact. But that's number 5. Number 4, and it's dropping out of my top 3 because how much they botched the last season. That is Game of Thrones. I got into it late. I think I got into it like around 2015, 2016. So I had to kind of, burn through all that. And then ever since then, picking it up, and then it just slowly tapered off. And I hated it.
Oh, the theme song, though. Just Zoo doing the theme song. So you got locked in.
Well, I love the version of it because I heard this version of it before I ever saw the show. It was like, the fucking Game of Thrones. And it's just like, Thrones, yeah. Game of Thrones, yeah. Fucking Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones, fucking Game of Thrones.
Jesus. Well, speaking about that,
I heard that before I ever watched the show. So every time the opener came on, I'd be like, the fucking Game of.
Well, since we're on the topic of very notable intro music, number 3 is going to be The Sopranos.
Ooh.
I think that was one of the first series that I've ever watched. Came out in the late 90s, ran all the way through, I think 2000, and I think I was a senior in high school, so it was at 07. Still a very polarizing final shot. No, everyone has their own kind of fan theories about what happened and what didn't happen, but that's an oldie but a goodie. Number 2, it's more kind of a regional bias, and it's still a really great show, and that's The Wire. Based out in Baltimore, kind of dealing with, society and law enforcement and drug organizations and crime. And there's an actor in The Wire that is shared with my number 1 spot. Reed, do you want to take a guess what my number 1 is?
I already know what it is because I know it's going to be shared with Michael K. Williams. Yep.
So number 1, and it's not because it's a fantastic show. I love when series or movies are set in this kind of a time frame, but it has a more of an emotional tie to me. A longtime fan of the show. One of my best friends in the world, my older brother Eric. This is one of the first shows that me and him kind of binge watched together. I can remember, making sure I'm home every Sunday when it was coming on, and that is Boardwalk Empire.
Yep.
Very short series. It's only about 3 or 4 seasons long, but it deals with, the mob and gangs and during the time of Prohibition in Atlantic City. They primarily focus on Nucky Thompson, who's played by, I wanted to say Paul Giamatti, but it's not Paul Giamatti at all. It's Steve Buscemi. But I will say, if I recommend any HBO show, that is always my first go-to. I always ask, have you watched Boardwalk Empire? If no, go watch it now.
That's a show I've always meant to watch. I like that Prohibition era for shows, and it's like a show that I know I can probably watch and get into because it won't feel too dated. Obviously, because it was set in that kind of era. That's my problem with The Sopranos and The Wire. I've tried to watch them, and I've tried getting into it. The Sopranos, I don't know what it is. I think it was when they were talking about moving VHS players or whatever, or DVD players, something I don't know. It was just something that was taking me out of it. The same with The Wire. And so I know that they're high quality shows. I just can't get into it right now.
These recommendations really got down to The Wire.
Shit.
Jesus Christ.
Well, what I like too about Boardwalk Empire too, it's not all fictional characters. They bring in some of the biggest names that have ever existed as far as gangsters in the mob, like Al Capone and Lucky Luciano, and it's just such a great series.
You're not getting away with that, Zoo.
I tried to bury it for you. Speaking of burying it for you, 6 Feet Under is another show that's really good to look into.
Mm-hmm.
Flight Attendant is an incredible 2-season show.
This is with Kaylee Cuoco, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Harley Quinn, if you're talking Kaylee Cuoco on HBO.
Mm-hmm.
Harley Quinn is that's a wild-ass show.
Young Justice.
Oh, my God. There's so... Winning Time, for, if you're a sports person, Winning Time, which is about the LA Lakers dynasty in the 70s, the Magic Johnson era. And just the rise of that, I think that went 2 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
We brought up Last of Us earlier. Curb Your Enthusiasm just ended, and that's actually number 1 on my list. It's an OLI there. It's actually number 1 for me.
Is it number 1 on your list because that show single-handedly saved a man from going to jail for the rest of his life?
I remember that. Wasn't that on the Bill Buckner episode? I think that there was somebody in the crowd who proved that he wasn't.
Yeah, it's just this guy was, he got arrested and he was getting tried for murder, and he was like, no, I was at the Dodgers game with my daughter, and he was like, the cops were like, do you have any proof? And he couldn't, for some reason or other, he couldn't find any proof, but then he remembered that there was some show that was recording at that point in time, so the detectives and the lawyers got a hold of HBO, and they went through all this footage, and the only thing that saved him was a scene of Larry David walking down the stairs, and you just happen to see a glimpse of this guy walking to his seat.
That's incredible.
It's like, Jesus.
Look, your top 5 was completely different from mine, and I think that's the beauty of these lists, and that's the beauty of these networks. Number 5 for me was, I had Barry. At number 5, I had The Leftovers. At number 4 with Justin Theroux. That was a really kind of underrated show. The Righteous Gemstones is number 3 for me. Danny McBride. I highly recommend that for you two. You two would love that show if you haven't seen it. Succession is my number 2, and Curb is number 1. But I had shows like True Detective is on there. The Jinx was a documentary show that was one of the most groundbreaking true crime shows that you could find. Ballers with Dwayne Johnson, where he actually shows some acting range.
God.
Euphoria is just
I've been meaning to watch that.
Oh God, dude, it's a haunting show. You got to be you got to put yourself in
a bear mood.
Yeah, you got to be in a bear mood, probably times 2.
I've got kids. I can't watch that show.
No, you'll be terrified of that show. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes me just not want them to go to public school ever again.
The Deuce had 2 James Francos in it.
13 Reasons Why.
Yeah. Lovecraft.
I will say
Lovecraft Country with Jonathan Majors.
I will say that if Tokyo Vice had never came out, Westworld would have been in that top 5. Westworld's a really, really good show.
It's a very good show. I thought it could be inconsistent, but it would always hook me at the end. If there's any issues I would have mid-season, the finale would always get me back in. I was like, okay, baby.
All right, I'll watch.
I never watched this show, but it's just my favorite name of a show on HBO. It's Los Spookies. I've always wanted to watch that, created by Fred Armisen, about Mexican ghost hunters.
Well, it's like, and I hear people all the time when they talk about like classic HBO TV series, and like Oz always comes up, and I've never watched it. It's another one I've always meant to go watch, and I've never watched it.
Oz, the Larry Sanders Show is one I always hear about. With
Didn't realize that I couldn't even make a top 5 of HBO shows.
Well, look, before we get out of here, you had top 5 on Apple. I want to know what the top 5 Apple recommendations are, because
I'll burn through it. And the reason I want to make sure we did it is because off air, Scott was telling me that like he can't justify getting Apple just for one show. So I have a list of things that are worth checking out. The honorable mentions I'll give is The Morning Show, Central Park. I actually got to interview one of the animators for that on Animation Deliberation. Currently watching Manhunt, which is the story of John Wilkes Booth and him assassinating the president and the chase for him. Masters of the Air, reuniting Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg to do another World War II special. Like Band of Brothers. So just a lot of incredible series to watch. But for number 5, we're going to do Lessons in Chemistry. It's Brie Larson. She's just a woman trying to, show that what women can do. Trying to be like a chemist and whatnot, but obviously everything's like stacked against her, and she has the expectations of this is what a woman does, and how dare you try to break outside of that and this and that. And she does just such an incredible job in that show. Like seeing the Marvels like a week before, and then watching this show, the range of Brie Larson is
I love
stunning.
her. I don't care what people say. I love Brie Larson.
Yeah, I think the last thing I saw her was The Room, or Room. I don't think it's The Room.
I think The Room is that movie from the 90s that, hey, Mark, whatever that awful...
Mark?
Yeah, hey, Mark.
Yeah, it's just called Room.
Yeah.
Number 4, starring Chris Evans, is Defending Jacob. This was a miniseries where he is a lawyer, and he is in a pickle when he finds out that his son is a suspect for a high school murder. So trying to balance being a lawyer and being a community hero and this and that, but also trying to be a father at the same time. I think it was only like 6 or 8 episodes, and they wrapped up the whole story like in that one season. Beautifully done. And if somebody needs a quick thing to watch on Apple TV, like that's my go-to for that. The next thing, we were talking about the love for Rob McElhenney. We got Mythic Quest.
I've seen quite a bit of that.
That one is hilarious. It is just a sitcom about the day-to-day life of a MMORPG. So you have creatives fighting with technical, fighting with the artists, fighting with the corporate side of things, and the comedy is just phenomenal. And when things get real, it gets real. Like, it definitely has some emotional pieces to it. So Mythic Quest is just outstanding.
I've heard that show title before. Isn't Ashley Birch in that show? Like, doesn't she play in there?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because her brother is big into, like, he's written for video games, and he actually does a podcast for Dungeons and Dragons, and I listen to that all the time.
Yep, she is in it.
The dude who played Abed on Community is also
Danny Pudi.
Yeah, Danny Pudi. He's awesome.
That was one that threw me off because I didn't know how much range he had as an actor. They
had a really awesome COVID episode, I remember, too. Like, they were one of the shows
everything was over
Zoom.
FaceTime.
Yeah.
It just came out of nowhere too. Like, season 2 was already wrapped up, and then it was just like, hey, we just like randomly decided to do this COVID special, and the whole thing was just FaceTime calls. It was so great. So that was number 3. I think the rest of the shows really match that vibe of just great comedy that get like real when it gets real. So the next one is Jason Segel and Harrison Ford with Shrinking.
Yes. I love
Only
shrink.
one season so far. I hope we get more. Man, when it gets dark, it gets dark. But the comedy and dialogue and script, it's actually the guy who plays Roy Kent wrote it with Jason Segel on that, and it was because Harrison Ford was on it. He was like, "I'm not going to try to compete with that. I'll stay in the writers' room." And then wrapping it up, I'm pretty sure this one was obvious. I've referenced it quite a few times in this episode, but Ted Lasso. As great as the comedy is, as great as the storytelling is, this is a show that is just like wonderful for your soul. Just recently, I've been having a difficult time, like with the whole business owner stuff and how things are going and X, Y, Z. So I just put that on to just kind of give myself an emotional boost. If you are ever going through any kind of difficult time in your life, like this show is something that'll help you get you back on your feet. So if you are probably getting Apple TV, it is for this show. So while you're there, check out these extra hits while you're there.
And you get pretty great soccer chants on there like this.
3, 2, 3. 3, 2, 3. 3, 2, 3. 3, 2, 3.
Oh my god, I love the Apple recommendations. If I can give you one while you're on there too, Severance. Severance is a show.
Yeah,
to
thought about
check
that one. It
out.
was pretty good.
Yeah, that one I really enjoyed. It took me a little bit to get into, but then it like actually had pretty jaw-dropping moments.
Yeah, that's one of those where it's like, trust me and stick with it type of shows.
Mm-hmm. For All Mankind might be one of those shows. I haven't done that, and I need to actually stick to it. But
I haven't started that one yet. It's been on my to-do list.
That Blackbird, I'm just looking at their list of shows. Damn, Apple's really good.
Yeah.
Fine,
Yeah.
I'll buy it.
There you go.
It's crazy how little I go on Disney Plus now, but like I think Apple and Hulu. I mean, Apple, Hulu, and Crunchyroll. I want to say are like my 3 that I'm always revolving between. And a lot of the Crunchyroll stuff is on Hulu.
Mm-hmm.
You brought up Disney Plus, and that's something that I want to dive into with you at a later time. Is X-Men 97, and I don't know if that's
when I watch it. We'll get to it.
Yeah, I'm kind of watching it week to week. I'm kind of being able to keep up with it. I haven't watched this week's. I hear incredible things, and I didn't watch the 90s show actually. I never watched the old show. I
just don't remember any of it.
I just remember the theme song, even though I never watched the show. I watched Spider-Man, the 90s show, and just loved Christopher Daniel Barnes, and I always have it in my head of him screaming for Shocker when he was wearing the black suit. Shocker! Just scared the shit out of him. Shocker ran through a wall to get away from him. It's fantastic. Look, I love talking about anything with these two. I love talking TV with them. I'm glad that we got to talk about a whole wide range of things. You can catch more of them on their respective shows too. Zuhair Ali, you can see him on the Animation Deliberation podcast, giving you all the great animation deets. And of course, he said he's a business owner. Go check him out. What do the people need if they need you, Zoo?
Upright exposures on Instagram.
That's the shit. And Scott Ellia, he is the host of 323 College Shame Day. I heard some rumblings that there might be a new episode coming out. We have the draft coming up in a couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
What can we expect anything from you?
Yeah, I think this next episode might be diving a little bit deeper into this draft, talking about the prospects coming out, because this should be a very wild one, and then kind of touching on the wildness that has been the transfer portal this off season, if you want to call it time. So yeah, I don't want to give up too much.
I feel like we'll have plenty to talk about. Zoo and I might both need to be on there, because I'm getting fatigued already with Washington Commanders having the number 2 pick. So plenty.
Yeah, I've checked out. I don't even open Twitter as much anymore. It's just like it's just assholes being assholes to each other, man. Like, you can't even have an opinion of like why you want one player over the other. It's like, you're a fucking idiot for thinking this, and how dare you think that? Like, I can't wait for draft season to be over. Just people shut the fuck up.
It's a civil war breaking out among the community, and then you get into talk about us trading back into the first round. I can't do it right now.
What do you mean breaking out? It's just continuing.
That's true. That's true. Commie civil war. We'll have plenty to get into. We'll keep everybody updated, too, on what we'll do for the draft. Last year, we did a live show, It was a strenuous show going with Big Chief Burrito Luis Martinez.
Shirts came off.
Shirts came off. Food was ordered from all different regions of Virginia.
Oh, yeah, that is when we did do food roulette. That's right. I forgot about that.
Maybe at the very least we'll do like the first half of the draft. Maybe we'll just go till like, you know, from 8 to 10 o'clock or something. Just to get, because the number 2 pick is right there. Maybe we'll get to the Bucks pick by then, but we just need to get through that Washington pick and live analysis there. So we'll
top 15 would be interesting. All the quarterbacks should be taken by then.
Yeah. So I think we can work something out there, and we'll keep everybody situated at 323 Read is where you can go to stay updated with us, and of course the 323 Network on YouTube to see our beautiful, glorious faces for the show, for the network. I am Reed Murphy. We will talk to you all later. Stay safe, everybody.
Cars and barbecue you'll kill for, but you'll get acquitted.